Valley. So please make sure, if you can, post that at our organization. My audio visuals. Our huge conference is going to be September 24th and 25th. That is also on your table, and we have a board outside. When we did our conference last year, we had people tell us that it was the best conference in the state. So we have wonderful speakers, excellent CPUs, and it's very economical for a lot of nurses to get their CPUs their conference. Also, our directories, we're doing a new directory this year. We want to have that out in time for the conference in September. And so if you would like to be a sponsor in the directory, most of y'all are familiar with the directories. We have them out there. If you need to look at those, we would love to have you advertise in our directory. Let's see. I wanted to introduce our speaker today. Audiovisual techniques. We're very, very honored to have somebody from Little Rock to speak with us today, Jill Thompson. She's the program director for the Alzheimer's Association. She primarily works to recruit volunteers to help provide Alzheimer's education. And I, for one, can speak very highly of what she does. When I was involved with the Alzheimer's Association here in the community years and years, 10 years, a long time ago, there was very limited education for Alzheimer's and dementia in our area, but now we have 3 support groups, we have lots more education, lots more presentations, and a lot of that's due to Jill and Louise. So she also holds a master's of science degree from the University of Central Arkansas, and is going to be talking to us about new research. So please give a warm welcome to Jill Thompson.
Always taller than I am. Let me get situated here for just a second. It's good to be with you. The Alzheimer's Association, we've been a member, I guess, of Senior Care Alliance for a few years now. And it's hard for us to get up here all the time to Fort Smith, but when we can, we like to. I want to say a big thank you to Louise. Louise is a community educator for us, a volunteer community educator, a support group facilitator, and she has been a real, she's been one of the big reasons. I've been in this role for about 3 years now almost, and Louise, I'll just say, it is her efforts that have really helped us build our presence here in the River Valley, and as Holly said, with our education and our support groups. So thank you, Louise. Some of this you may have heard before. I know Louise has talked to you guys before and done some Alzheimer's information, but I hope that there is some new information here for you today. So as you know, just a real quick about the Alzheimer's Association, we're a national organization that have chapters all over the country. So the state of Arkansas is one chapter. And so even though I office in Little Rock, we are serving the whole state with care and support and education services. So, so just know that we are here for you and for your needs, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. So what I want to talk about today is supporting brain health in our community. There's some new research, a clinical trial that was released, it's been almost a year ago, but we're really focusing on it now, around how we can reduce our risk for cognitive decline. And that is so important. We actually just released some 2026 facts and figures and our special report. And that facts and figures had to do with brain health and risk reduction and people's desire. What do they know about it? What is their desire to learn about it? And one that stuck out to me, there were several, I just saw this yesterday. One that stuck out to me was that 90% of the people surveyed, right, survey says, 90% of people surveyed said they know that taking care of their brain is important. But only like 9% said they actually feel comfortable and know how to keep their brains healthy. So the desire is there to have a healthy brain. We just have to get that information to people and how to do it. And so that's what we want to do. I spoke to an FBLA, about 150 students at an FBLA conference, their state conference, a week or so ago, a couple weeks ago. And I asked them, how many of you have had someone in your PE class or your health class talk to you about heart health and the importance of keeping our hearts healthy? They pretty much all raised their hands. But when I said, does anyone talk to you about keeping your brain healthy? Nobody raised their hands. So we really need to think about this over the lifespan. I'm not going to spend too much time on these statistics. You guys have probably seen them before. But over 7 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease. In Arkansas, that's over 60,400 people. Okay, that's a lot of people and a lot of caregivers. You guys know that. But what I will say is people are excited about the new treatments that we have going on. 92% of Americans said they would like to have a treatment and would take it if they knew it would slow down the progression of the disease. We have that. People have to get early diagnosis and detection, but we now have that. We have 2 medications to slow the progression of the disease. So again, the mission of the Alzheimer's Association is we want to lead the way to end Alzheimer's. I'm just going to take this out, hang on. Because I'm a shorty. We want to lead the way to end Alzheimer's and all other dementia. We do that by accelerating global research. When you hear about a walk to end Alzheimer's, and we're going to talk about that at the end, that's here in the River Valley, not only is that helping us to provide all of our free care and support services in Arkansas, but it also helps us to advance research. We really want to work on risk reduction, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. Lifestyle initiatives that decrease our risk of cognitive decline. And then, of course, early detection and maximizing that quality care and support. So, cognitive decline. You all know, I'm not going to spend much time on this, that's just changes in memory, thinking, or reasoning that worsens over time. Okay? When we start to notice those changes, such as, oh gosh, I can't remember when to take my medications, I've been forgetting to pay my bills, and it comes into the point where people need help with their daily life, their daily activities, it becomes dementia. And again, as you can see on the screen, there are different causes of dementia. So dementia is that big, broad umbrella term, and we have causes underneath it. Alzheimer's just happens to be the number 1 cause. So again, early detection is very important. I mentioned those treatments. We can have another talk about treatments at some time, but early detection is important because these new treatments only work in the early stages of the disease. But what I want to talk about today is how we all deserve a life with the healthiest brain possible, right? We want to take action to help protect our brain health. If we're protecting our brains, we now have research, clinical evidence that suggests that we can reduce our risk of cognitive decline and delay or even prevent dementia from happening, okay? That's really exciting. So don't we want people to know about this? Don't we want to know about it for ourselves? And so we know that there are things we cannot control about our brain health, right? Especially Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is a complex interactions across multiple factors. We know that age is the greatest risk factor. 1 in 3 individuals over age 85 will die from Alzheimer's disease. Genetics. We can control our genetics. We know that if it's in our family, we're probably could be at increased risk of developing Alzheimer's or a form of dementia. So we can't control our genetics. We can't control our family history. But we can control certain health conditions, and we can control some health behaviors. And so this is what the Alzheimer's Association has put together as the 10 healthy habits for our brains. So we're going to look at those just a little bit, not too much time on each one, and then I want to talk about a study that really honed in on this and focused on this and what it looked like. So the first thing I'll say is that we know that our hearts and brains are closely connected. So what's good for our heart is good for our brain, all right? The heart pumps that blood to our brain, which gives the oxygen and the nutrients to nourish the brain and stay healthy. If our heart is not functioning properly, we're not getting that good blood flow to our brain. I believe it's 25% of every heartbeat. That 25% of the blood from a heartbeat goes to the brain. Okay, so we got to keep our hearts healthy. That's number one. And so we got to have, people need to keep their blood pressure under control. They have to. Because what happens if our blood pressure's high, right? At risk for stroke, possible, microvascular bleeds, whatever. You guys probably know more than I do about that. But we gotta keep our blood pressure under control and keep our heart healthy. We gotta manage the diabetes. If someone has diabetes, that increases their risk automatically for cognitive decline. So making sure that people are aware of that and keeping their diabetes in check. Maintaining a healthy weight is so important. But it's important for our heart, right? It's been shown that midlife obesity increases someone's risk to develop cognitive decline. So maintain that healthy weight, working with that physician to understand what is your weight, where are you in that range, what is an okay range for you, and trying to work with your doctor to stay in that. And then being smoke-free. That's kind of obvious, right? Be smoke-free, because if we're damaging, our heart's not working properly, we're getting, because we're smoking, we need to stop. When I was at that FBLA conference, I told the students, I said, that includes vaping. And there was an audible, oh. I was like, oh, guys, come on. The good news is, if someone is a smoker, they can quit smoking and bring that risk back down to a non-smoker. Okay, so just quit, period. So again, those are the 4 things out of those 10 that really are related to our heart health as well. But we also know that exercise and eating right and sleeping well are also very important. I'm going to dive into the exercise and eating a little bit more in a minute. But exercise, what does it do? It increases that blood and oxygen flow to our brains and can really help improve connections among our brain cells. But guess what else is happening if you're exercising, right? We are taking care of our heart. We're keeping our blood pressure down. We're helping to maintain our weight. I always tell people, if you're only going to do one of the 10 that I share with you, let's work on exercise and get moving. Because that takes care of a lot of things, right? That hits a lot of those healthy habits. Eating right. We know that what we put in our body matters. And so in our study, I'm going to talk about it, we utilize the MIND diet. Have y'all heard of the MIND diet? Yeah, it's kind of a combination between the Mediterranean diet and the NASH diet. To me, it looks very Mediterranean. I'll show it to you in a minute. And then sleep. Sleep is very important for our brain health, okay? As you probably know, Alzheimer's is the hallmark of Alzheimer's disease is the buildup of amyloid protein in the brain and tau proteins, okay? Those of us who do not have Alzheimer's disease, we all have this amyloid plaque in our brain. We all have it, it's there. But those of us who don't have Alzheimer's, we're able to clear out the trash, the excess protein, so it doesn't build up. We can clear it out through different mechanisms. And one of those mechanisms is when we're asleep, you get this wash. I've heard it called a cerebrospinal fluid wash that you get on your brain. And so it helps to clear out some of that trash, that excess protein in there. So if we're not getting good sleep and getting that REM, that deep sleep, which is when that happens, then we're missing that opportunity to clear out the trash. Well, there's other ways that trash is cleared out too, but that's just one way. And if we're not getting that deep sleep, we're missing out on an opportunity to clear it away. The last 3, of the 10, are challenging your mind, staying in school, and protecting your head. Okay? People have to continue to challenge their mind throughout their whole life. We know that people with higher education tend to have what we call cognitive reserve and might have a later onset of the disease or a protection. But everyone needs to challenge their mind. So being here, there are activities that people can take part in, which is so important. You know, you hear about those people who retire and they don't know what they're going to do. That's not Louise. But you hear about people who retire and they don't know what they're going to do, and they end up just sitting at home and watching the same shows over and over. We all know those people. They're not challenging their mind. They're not getting out of the community. They're not socializing. They are not doing anything hard to challenge their brain. So people need to be encouraged to find a new activity, start a new hobby, maybe take a class at the local community college. You know, I think seniors can audit classes and it doesn't cost a thing. Maybe it's just learning to play a new game. And maybe it can even be those computer-based games, right? The recommendation is that it's not just one, like you're not always just doing a crossword puzzle, but also including things like Sudoku, right? So you've got numbers going on. So different things. You know, playing chess, playing checkers, that's a good challenge. If you don't have, someone doesn't have someone to do that with, well, do it online. That's okay. You're somehow challenging yourself. And so encouraging our younger generations to stay in school. It's important to have that education as a protection for our brain. And then again, protecting our heads, right? We hear about the football players who, you know, multiple concussions, and then later in life they're experiencing some cognitive decline. Well, when you think about that through the whole lifespan, right? With our children on up through our seniors. So wearing your helmets, wearing our seat belts, right? If I have a little bump and I get bumped by another car and I don't have my seat belt on, I might hit my head on the dashboard or on the windshield, and that could make a difference, right? And with our seniors, just thinking about safety in the home, because a lot of times, you guys know, our seniors, their reflexes aren't as great as they used to be, and if they trip or they fall, or maybe they're standing on a chair or a ladder trying to change a light bulb and they lose their balance, their reflexes are not as quick to stop themselves, right? And so we don't want them hitting their heads, because that could cause some issues with cognitive decline. So what I want to talk about a little bit right now is the U.S. Pointer Study. So again, in July of last summer, July, the Alzheimer's Association released the results of the U.S. Pointer Study. Has anyone in here heard about the U.S. Pointer Study? Oh, good. Tell me something new. So this was the first large-scale randomized controlled trial in the U.S. to look at specifically diet, exercise, cognitive stimulation, and heart health. So those were sort of the four big areas. And they wanted to see how this protected cognitive function in older adults. So Finland had done a study just like this called the finger study. Anyone heard of the finger study? So it was the same, basically, my understanding is the same study, but in Finland, and it had positive results, right? And so the Alzheimer's Association said, okay, that's great. Let's see if that translates to America, right? Our demographics are different. Our people are different. The food we eat is different, right? Our environments are different. Let's see if it translates to the U.S. And so they had 2,000 individuals, around 2,000, a little bit more, who participated in this trial. So these individuals did not have dementia or cognitive decline. But there was something about them that put them at an increased risk. So maybe it was family history. Maybe it was heart health. Something put them at an increased risk of cognitive decline. And so they split the group. They split it into two groups. One was a very structured group, and one was a self-guided group. Okay, so they had this brain health recipe. And so we'll go over this in a second. So they gave them this brain health recipe, and those who were in the self-guided group, they said, here you go do it. And then you have those who were in the very structured group, which had some mentoring and coaching along the way. I always say it makes me think of how of Weight Watchers, right? When you went to talk to your coach, you had your check-in and you how you doing, and here's some tips for you. So you have 2 groups. Over the 2 years, both groups showed improvement in cognitive function. And whatever, cognitive testing at the beginning of the study and at the end. Both groups showed improvement. But those who followed the structure, the very structured lifestyle, they stuck to it, they had the coaching, they had even better improvement, right? I think it was like their brains looked 2 years younger than they actually were, right? So they had improvement, which shows us that how we live our life, what we do with our lifestyle habits makes a difference in our cognitive health. And so these individuals are continuing, the Alzheimer's Association is investing, I think it's like $40 million. It's a lot to continue to follow these people to see where are they in 5 years, what does their cognition look like then, did they stick to the recipe, and really follow them to get more and more valuable information for us. And so it's very exciting. So the U.S. Pointer Study, and I have some copies of it here, we can pass around or you can grab on your way out to have with you, is first looking at physical exercise. 30 to 35 minutes of moderate to intense aerobic activity 4 times a week. Oh, that's a lot. 30 to 35 minutes of moderate to intense aerobic activity 4 times a week. That's, those of us who work, that's hard to find the time, but we have to try our best. Because they also included some strength training and flexibility exercises in that as well. But like I said, when you're exercising, you are helping to get that blood flow to your brain. You are maybe socializing with other people if you're doing it in a group or with a friend. You may be stimulating your brain, your cognition if you're learning a new sport, like maybe you take up pickleball or something like that. So it really does, again, helps your blood pressure, helps your weight. So it really does encompass a lot of those healthy habits and helps us to achieve reaching more of those. And then, of course, they wanted to make sure they were having their health monitored regularly. So those check-ins for their weight, their blood pressure, those lab results, staying on top of those things to make sure they were taken care of. Nutrition, I mentioned the MIND diet. So they wanted these individuals to follow the MIND diet. The MIND diet, again, I think it reminds me more of the Mediterranean diet than anything else because it emphasizes those dark leafy greens, berries, nuts, whole grains, olive oils, fish, all of those kinds of things that we know are healthy for us, but really stress that. We talk about that, have a longer version of this where we really go into how you can change your habits. It's about a 60-minute education program where we dive deeper into overcoming those challenges and setting flexible goals. And, I tell people with the diet, you don't have to make a change all at once. Think about what can I do different with what I eat. Maybe I have nuts there as my snack instead of a handful of M&Ms, right? So when I need snack, instead of grabbing that handful of M&Ms out of the pantry or out of the bowl, I'm going to grab nuts instead. So it's just one easy change. So thinking about those easy changes. And then the cognitive exercise, right? These are those they use computer-based training games 3 times a week. Plus they encouraged regular social activities. So nothing too difficult, right? It was, we need you to challenge your brain 3 times a week for 30 minutes doing something. And they did computer-based games. And so all of this showed these families great results that are really exciting. It's all things we all know intuitively, right? We know all these things are good for us. But this gives us some information, some good clinical evidence to be able to share with our families, with our clients, with our coworkers about, okay, if you needed another reason to eat that healthy diet, here's one. If you needed another reason to start exercising again, here's a reason. It can decrease your risk of cognitive decline. It can protect your brain for a longer period of time. And so, why these 10 healthy habits? Well, these currently have the strongest level of evidence. All those 10 healthy habits. But there can be other risks, and there's a lot of research around other risk factors for cognitive decline. Hearing and vision loss, stress, air pollution. There was a study released from the Alzheimer's Association's International Conference, Research Conference, there was a study done out in western U.S. about wildfire smoke. And I didn't read the study, but I know the results showed that though the exposure to wildfire smoke accelerates cognitive decline. So there are environmental factors. Again, things that we really can't control. We can't always just pick up and move from where we live. There was another study released at that same time around processed foods. And it showed the connection between processed foods and cognitive decline. So again, that helps us to know we need to eat those healthy vegetables, those healthy foods. I wanted to dig a little bit more in. I am really interested in the connection of hearing loss to cognitive decline. There's a lot of research on that. My mother, she's 83 years old. She can't hear anything. Even with her hearing aid, she has trouble hearing. You probably all know those people. And sometimes I'm talking to her and I don't get a response, or then she starts talking about something else, and I'm always like, is that her hearing or is her cognition declining? What's going on? So I actually did a little research. I looked at a study out of JAMA, and it's called Hearing Loss, Brain Structure, Cognition, and Dementia Risk in Framingham Heart Study. Have y'all ever heard of the Framingham Heart Study? Yeah. So it's evidently, I just learned this doing this little research, it's been this long cohort study. So it's been this heart study in Framingham, Massachusetts that they've been doing for decades. I can't remember when it started, but there are 3 generations have participated in this heart study. So it's this long longitudinal study in this Framingham, Massachusetts town. Well, they took some of them, they were interested in hearing loss and dementia. So these results are released in November of 2025. So they took 2,178 of those participants and looked at them from July of 2024 all the way to August of 2025. And they excluded those who already had dementia or stroke. And when they looked at them and studied this over this period of time, they saw that mild or greater hearing loss was associated with smaller brain volume. So those who had any kind of memory loss had some smaller brain volume, greater white matter abnormalities, and decline in executive function over time. So any hearing loss was associated with a 71% increased risk of developing Alzheimer's. That's kind of scary, right? But think about it. When we can't hear, we're not able to take in new information. Okay, we may become less social, right? Why do I want to go to that event? I can't hear any of the conversation anyway. We took my mom out to eat for her birthday over the weekend, and she was sitting at the end of the table. I said, Mom, do you want to sit in the middle so you can hear it? She's like, no, I can't hear the conversation anyway. You know, someday she may get to the point where she says, I don't want to go because I can't hear anybody, so I don't want to go. And then, have you all heard of the APOE4 gene? The APOE4 gene is a gene that, if you have it, it puts you at an increased risk of dementia and cognitive decline. It's an at-risk gene. It's not a determinant gene. It just means you have a little bit of increased risk. So those who had at least one APOE4 allele, they were even more at risk if they had hearing loss to develop cognitive decline. So we really have to focus on making sure people are getting their hearing checked, getting those hearing aids, doing what they can, again, as a protection against brain health. So I thought that was very, very, very interesting. And so again, we have to take charge of our brain. It is never too early and it is never too late for individuals to start thinking about, their brain health, right? We need to start having people think about it through the lifespan. It's very important. It's never too early, never too late. I'll just share, and I don't have any handouts on it right now because this is a brand new initiative by the Alzheimer's Association. I will actually be going for have a training on it next week, virtual training on it, so I can give you more information then. But we have a big initiative on brain health at work. How can we work with corporations or companies like yours to have brain health integrated into wellness programs? And so we have a new initiative on that. And as I learn, if that's something that you're interested in, or your company, your organization, let me know. And as I learn more information, I will pass it on to you. I think organizations and companies can even become like brain health champions, right? And so that's super exciting. So a lot of push into that, because not only is it great for the wellness of all the employees, but hopefully that's going to allow people to work longer and have better outcomes and those kinds of things. As you might know from hearing Louise, and Louise is so gracious to have tables for us at events, we have a 24/7 helpline, 1-800-272-3900. So this is available if you leave here today and you say, yeah, I want to learn, I think there's more I want to learn about that U.S. pointer study, right? You can call that helpline and say, can you direct me to more resources on the U.S. pointer study? And they will. But it can also be, again, for those caregivers. It's the middle of the night, their loved one is starting to wander, they're getting anxious, they don't know what to do, they've tried every strategy they know, and so they call this helpline and talk to a trained professional who can say, all right, let's try this, this, or this. Your staff can even use it. If you've got memory care, or you have staff that are working with dementia patients, they can use it too, right? They can call, say, this is what's happening, what are some strategies? All of our education and support is free. Holly mentioned we do have 3 caregiver support groups here in the River Valley. And we also offer 3 virtual support groups. So if someone can't attend one of the support groups, maybe it's not a good time, maybe it's not a good day, we have some virtual options as well. And I want to share with you also, I have some other handouts up here. The Alzheimer's Association has a community resource finder. So this is where people can find you when they're looking for resources, right? If they go to our website and they're like, I need to know about home care in my area, just as an example. They put in their zip code, and if you are in our system, your organization will pop up as an option for them. And so I have a handout here that tells you how you can make sure your organization is in our community resource finder. Let's see. So this is something else I'll just throw out there for a minute. We do have a comprehensive hub called ALS Pro for professional resources, where you can look at the current research, look at guidelines, clinical guidelines, get some continuing education. Educations that, like I'm doing now, are not for CEUs, but we do have CEUs available online if people are interested. So it's ALS Pro, alz.org/ALS Pro. And then finally, the way that we can provide, as I mentioned, all of these care and support services for free is through fundraising. And one of those is our Walk In Alzheimer's. We have one right here, so I'm going to bring up for 2 minutes, and then I know you've got some other things to talk about. Taylor Stokes, who is our walk manager here in the River Valley.
Hey guys, I've met a lot of you. And yeah, we have our Walk In Alzheimer's again. It's this October. It's the morning of Halloween, which we're really excited about. We're going to do a lot of costume contests and some other fun things to be involved. But if you haven't started your team, we would love for you to do that. I have information here today, whether it's for your company or for your residents. We would really love to have you all there. This walk in particular is one that's really special to me because I'm from Fort Smith. This is where I was born and raised, and this is how my mom and I got involved when my grandfather was first diagnosed. And it's continued to be a support system for us since. And so thank you all for being here today, and I really hope that we see you in October. And again, I have packets if you need them with all of that information.
All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Holly for what's next, but if you have questions, I know I didn't really leave time for questions, I'll be here. So I'll be here to answer any questions you have when we're finished.
We do have a couple minutes if anybody does have a question that would pertain to.
Let me
Go ahead, Louise.
let me just tack on and say that Dr. Cash at the Center for Hearing is going to be a guest speaker at our conference talking about this specific topic. So, and there'll be an hour CEU from that, so,
Good plug for the conference.
yes.
On your table is information about the conference, and if y'all haven't seen that, just look at the speakers that we have lined up for you guys in September. So I'm so excited about that.
You're okay.
All right. We have Senior Day coming up. Oh, I have a handout right behind me.
Neural walls. Have you worked with those? Are those a good thing, a bad thing?
What was your question again?
What is a neural wall?
Neural wall.
I just for sensory, I think, it just can kind of be a stress reliever. Those of you who are familiar with it.
Because it counts, you start out at a certain level, and I mean, it just looks like something you shake.
Yeah, that's out of my knowledge base. Does anyone know about that? Do they-
No, I mean, it's just a sensory.
Just more of a sensory, yeah. I'm gonna put these handouts at the table if you wanna grab one on your way, they'll be there.
Okay, so Ashley was needing to make sure we talk about Senior Day. I did that at the beginning, but please, if you're at a facility, ask us about Senior Day. If you're not at a facility and you work with older adults, please grab one of these posters at the table and post in your building. It's a great event, it's free for adults, and they get a wonderful hot dog and chips picnic luncheon as well. So, probably not an approved Mediterranean diet.
And it's free.
And it's free. And also, if you are a company and you're a member of the Senior Care Alliance and you'd like to have a table, be sure to talk to us about that as well. If you're not a member, or if you'd like to sponsor the conference or our directory, please grab one of these off the table. Okay, I am going to open it up for any announcements or anything that's going on and have your little elevator speech. Joel and Ashley go first. Imagine that. A for Ashley.
Thank you. I just feel like I got an award or something. I'm Ashley with Mercy Rehab, and there's several familiar faces here. I'm the Vice President of our Senior Care Alliance, and we just want to thank y'all for being here. For my day job, I work at Mercy Rehab Hospital. I'll be you guys' contact for anybody that's needing inpatient rehab. So that's anybody falling, anybody weak. Raise your hand if you know anybody falling and weak. That should be people all over. So everybody would benefit from inpatient rehab. It's just a matter of if it's their time to come into inpatient. Anybody can self-refer. They don't have to have a doctor's order. So if you will just take one of my cards, take my cell phone number, the spouse can call it in. Anybody at a facility can call it in. We would love to help. Inpatient rehab's about 3 hours of therapy a day. I know that sounds like a lot, but we break it down into small increments. Our ultimate goal is within 1 to 2 weeks to have these patients home, so that way the home care and the home health can continue taking care of them, and they can also continue to live at the ALS and independent living. Anybody want to go next? Great. Oh, and a plug for Senior Day. Senior Day is always fun. Make sure to bring a tent. Oh, I heard all the chairs and I'm constantly breathing. Okay, I'm ready for part of hospice. We use palliative hospice care in our area. I always like to tie in a little bit of hospice education to our topic. Dementia Alzheimer's is a diagnosis that would be hospice appropriate once they get in stage. If you guys have any questions about what that looks like, I know these folks can fall through the cracks pretty often. They may meet their goals with home health and receiving no care for a very long time. Anyone can reach out to us for an evaluation. We send a nurse out there and we'll contact our doctor. You don't have to go to the PCP or the hospital to get that started. So if you have any questions, my number is 479-462-7932.
And Brittany. I'm Sarah with Homestead. We do in-home care, so cooking, cleaning, laundry, bed changes, take them wherever they want to go, whatever they need. We do work alongside hospice, all the home health agencies, all the facilities, with the VA, everybody. So we take Medicaid, VA, and long-term care insurance. We have a lot of private pay. We are looking for caregivers, especially in like the Clarksville, Ozark, Scranton area. We're needing people that way into Oklahoma. So if y'all know anybody that needs a job, 21 and older, we'll run their background check, do their training there at the office, and be happy to hire them. So shout out for area agencies too, they're needing caregivers too. So I think all of us are. But we do provide insurance for our caregivers, and so if it's an anything insurance, we can take care of that too. Any questions? No? If you need me, my number is 479-651-3151.
Y'all have to stay away from the Yeah, they have to go.
I'm just gonna over here.
That's good.
I think I have PTSD at this point. And I can't treat myself, so here we go. Hi, I'm Monty Harrison. I am with WHO Wellness in a private practice. We are expanding, so we are now offering education workshops, consulting, authorized revisions for any master level social workers trying to get their LCSW. Also, of course, we like do outpatient counseling and supportive counseling for mostly caregivers, adults, geriatrics or seniors that are experiencing that transition of when they're starting to have that memory loss, still with it, but not quite with it. I have a few of those in my caseload right now, just kind of understanding that transition and what to expect to come. But also see anyone that is 21 and up for generalized, mental stuff, depression, anxiety, some PTSD. I have worked with the VA, so I kind of get those situational things, and grief. I do a lot of grief counseling. So if no one wants to get a therapist, I'm your girl. My number is 479-274-8847. Somehow y'all know me.
Pass it on that way. Hey everybody, my name is Mandy Kirkendall. I'm a certified therapeutic recreation specialist and our memory care program coordinator at Brookdale Senior Living. We are an assisted living community that also provides Alzheimer's and dementia care secure community. Kind of interesting of what we were talking about today and about the brain health. I want to highlight how Brookdale really utilizes a daily path, and it's an evidence-based program that I provide in our memory care that goes along with what works best for their brain during the day. And so you think about a lot of people try to keep their family member at home, but I know a lot of us, we are in that sandwich generation where we're trying to take care of our parents while we're also trying to take care of kids, and we're still working, we're not retired, and there's not as many housewives that stay home to take care of their loved ones. When you have them in a place like Brookdale, we are really able to provide that extra stimulation that they need. So our daily path, we do a B-Fit in the morning, which is a Brookdale fitness program specified through all different types of things between balance and coordination and things like that. We do a cognitive activity every morning, whether it's, like she was talking about, the brain games and the puzzles and things like that. In the afternoon, we have our creative time, so we do more of like your arts and crafts, self-expression, cooking. We do a lot of creative programs. Physical activity that kind of gets some of that afternoon restlessness because you start to see that sundowning time frames in the afternoon. So we do something active, and then a music and intergenerational program also. So that today is Wednesday. I know a lot of y'all talk about Worship Wednesday. I play guitar, and we sing hymns on Wednesday afternoons, and it seems to be a favorite. And then also on our daily path, we have a sensory program in the evening that just kind of helps them settle down and get ready for a more restful sleep at night. So that's just Brookdale's kind of daily path, and it's kind of an interesting program. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. Our number is 479-484-5556. Thank you.
Hello, I am Kelly with Medisay Pharmacy. We are new to the Senior Care Alliance.
locations, one in Charleston and Fort Smith, and then 2 in Fort Smith. Some things that kind of set us apart is in our pharmacy specifically, we are one of the only places that do travel vaccines. So I know a lot of seniors are out traveling after they retire, and so if they need those services, we can provide that. We also do a med sync program with bubble packing, just to kind of help make sure they are staying compliant with their medicines and help them to remember to take them. So in our durable medical equipment department, we also do CNG billing, CGM billing, I'm sorry. And I think we can also help them put those on in the store as well. So we do diabetic shoes, scooters, power chairs, lift chairs. We do bill Medicaid for incontinence supplies. And then also in our pharmacy, we also do compounding services. We're one of the only places in town that does that as well. So anything from like promethazine gel for nausea or topical pain, really anything that's not commercially available, we can work with on compounding. A lot of people who have swallowing issues, we can work with that. But yeah, anything else? If y'all have any questions, our store at the Rogers Avenue location, the number is 479-452-0278. I am Shannon Johnson. I am with UAMS, West Central Centers on Aging, and I'm just going to talk about some of the programs that we do offer, and they are free to the community. We offer Tai Chi. I will be getting certified in that very soon, and Joyce is getting recertified, so that will be up and running. I just received my certification in Drums Alive, so we will be offering more programs with Drums Alive. Joyce is doing a great job out in the community of offering those. Ageless Grace and Walk with Ease. Lana does a great job of offering those services out to our community members. We do family caregiver workshops for dementia so that they can go through the course, know what to expect. We have books, information to help them with this process. We have the Alzheimer's Experience, which is a VR lab where you wear the headset and you can experience and embody someone who has dementia and go through the different stages. We offer that to caregivers. We offer that to anyone in the community that's interested. I just ask that you reach out to me if you have a question about the programs that we offer. My number is 479-489-8635, and we service 14 counties. So we are out and about, and we're adding to those daily.
Hi, I'm Cassie Barnes, and I'm from the Blossoms of Van Buren. We're a skilled and long-term care facility, and we have VA contracts. We have 2 memory care units, male and female. My number is 479-670-0073.
We need to hear a deep voice on me. Somebody loves you. I'm going to see you.
Good afternoon, Cindy Anderson with Encompass Health. I am here to talk to you a little bit about Encompass inpatient rehab. We are a hospital. We are an acute hospital that basically specializes in inpatient rehab. So ours is very similar to what Mercy is, but the reason that I'm here is to talk about our technology and our excellent outcomes, because no one in the area or in the region touches our technology. We have 173 hospitals. We're the largest network of inpatient hospitals across the nation. We we definitely separate ourselves from any of our competitors. We are here to just to support anyone with maybe a traumatic or non-traumatic brain injury, since we're talking about brain injury and brain wellness. So if you have a need, definitely call Encompass Health, and we will be able to get those people back into the community, because that is what we do, is we typically give you guys back to the community with the home health agency support, home health, any kind of resources that case management can help you with. So 479-551-4770 is our phone number, so definitely reach out. Typical stay is anywhere from 7 to 12 days, right around 11 is where we're sitting at right now. So thank you.
Anybody else have any announcements? I want to thank Teresa and Trish and the dietary team for helping us today with the decorations and the food. As always, y'all know Teresa, she's awesome. And I want to remind you guys, does anybody know what's significant about next week? Nobody knows. It's Nurses Week next week. Is that right? Oh no, May 6th. 2 weeks. That was a test. May 6th is Nurses Week. Please hug your nurses. And then I want to thank Jill for an awesome presentation. Thank you very much for making the drive for Little Rock. Appreciate that. And I also want to let you know, there's a couple of different people in here that haven't been in our building before. Our administrator is right over there, LaDonna. She'd be happy to show you around. We have independent living and level 1 and level 2 memory care. And we also just opened our assisted living community. What we found is we had a lot of our residents that were in independent living but didn't have dementia, and so they had to go to another building. So we've opened up an assisted living. We'd be happy to show you that as well. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
As a soon-to-be new member, could I just introduce myself?
Sure, come on up. Welcome, a new member. We're always happy to do that.
Well, thank you so much.
My name is Kathy Abelson, and I have 2 things to talk about today. I'm here on the perfect day. I work with Caption Call, so you're probably familiar with captioning phones for people who have hearing loss and they're not able to communicate over the phone. And we know how important it is when you can't communicate and you can't socialize. And those are federal programs, so there's no cost. And I always throw out there, you don't have to have a landline, and you don't have to have internet anymore. Cell phones work. I'm also, and this is my new love of my life, I'm becoming a representative for RAZ Mobility. It's R-A-Z, RAZ Mobility. I have one in my hand. This is a cell phone that is designed specifically for people with dementia and for the IDD community. This is the greatest thing I've ever found in my life. When I tell you it is easy and it's going to be a game changer for your loved ones and the people you care for with dementia, I kid you not. Cross my heart. I live in Searcy, and if I could get your business card, something with your email on it, I would love to just share some information, and I look so forward to being with this gang. You guys look great, and some of you are so familiar because I've seen you at events and things like that. So thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited. And if there's anything, of course, that I can do, never hesitate to reach out to me. And I think that's it. No song and dance today. Sometimes I try to wake people up with that. I kid you not, I did a June Carter